Well, hi, everybody. Ken Johnson here with you with an update, and we're talking about the weather pattern not only now, but also as we head into next week. The polar vortex, it's on the loose, and when the polar vortex gets loose, that usually means waves of cold air heading into the south. I'm going to explain more about what the loose polar vortex means in just a moment. But with this type of a weather pattern that we're in right now, you can expect shots of cold air about every 3 days, and I'll kind of paint the picture on that as well here in just a moment. So let's talk about what the polar vortex is. So every year during the winter months, and even this year round, even in the summer, you see it up here. But during the winter months, you get this big area of cold air that just builds up here over the Arctic regions of the world here. We're talking about northern Canada, back into Alaska, Siberia, and over there into the North Pole and Greenland, all these areas see this really, really cold air that builds up. You get the polar vortex, this area of low pressure that develops over this. So you got this low pressure on top, and then below it you got the cold air. So this builds up. And when you have a strong polar vortex, the jet stream is real strong, and it keeps the cold air, the super cold air, in place right where it's at. Well, a couple times a year, this polar vortex will kind of get or break loose from the northern parts of the globe here. So again, with the polar vortex, you get this is a strong polar vortex, you get the strong jet stream and just keeps that cold air trapped. But when it begins to get loose, like it is now, what happens is the stratosphere, which is above the troposphere, which is the second layer in our atmosphere, begins to warm a bit. And as that happens, it causes the polar vortex to get weaker, and it dislodges from the polar regions of the world, and it drops south. And it causes the jet stream to get weaker, and that's what allows the system to begin to kind of meander some and drop into southern or more southern latitudes. And that's kind of what's taking place right now. It's kind of happened in January, and then it kind of strengthened a little bit again, but it's kind of back now. So if you take a look at the way things are right now here, this is a storm center moving through the Mid-South tonight. There's been some severe weather today in parts of Mississippi and Alabama, some more of that tonight over this way. But on the backside of that, we've got cold air pouring in on the backside of it. This system really didn't get its act together until it got east of Texas, east of Oklahoma. There was a little bit of precipitation last night, but not a lot. But I know that across Texas and Oklahoma, you're ready for some sun. It has been so cloudy as of late, so gloomy as of late. And I think we might get a little bit more over the next couple of days, but it still doesn't look great. Cold air just continues to pour in tonight. It may not be quite as brutal on Thursday with some sunshine, but temperatures are going to stay in the 30s for the most part. And if you take a look at the temperature contrasts, and the reason why it's been so gloomy across a good part of the southern U.S. is because you've had this boundary stalled across deep South Texas and along the northern Gulf Coast here. So with that in mind, you had the warm air south of it, and then you had cold air above it here, or cold air north of that boundary here. And that warm air was trying to come northward. Cold air kept it from doing so, and you result in a lot of clouds and drizzle and fog. If we take a look here, and this is as of Wednesday evening, between deep South Texas, we'll go all the way and talk about the border between Texas and Mexico. And you go all the way to the northern border between the U.S. and Canada, where it is minus 15 as of Wednesday evening here. At times today, there's been almost a 100-degree difference in temperature from the northern U.S. all the way down to the southern border here. And as of this, 80 to 85-degree difference in temperature. That's significant, but it does happen with these big Arctic air masses, especially as you get into February and sometimes early March. You just got the warm air trying to surge northward at this time across the southern U.S., but you still have a lot of winter left to go here. So let's talk about that polar vortex. The upper vortex itself is spinning across Canada, and it's going to be dropping down into the northern parts of the country here, and this is going to wind up sending waves of cold fronts to the south, or waves of blasts of cold air to the south here. One was coming through on Wednesday this week here, and then we have another dropping in on Saturday into Sunday, and then behind it you'll get another wave that'll come in around Tuesday of next week, and then maybe another one late next week. This pattern will last, I think, for at least the next week here, and that carries us into the latter part of February. Things may try to change some as we head over into March, but at least right now, expect these waves of cold air to continue to drop south, and it's going to remain very cold across the central northern U.S. and some shots and waves of a lot of cold air also down to the south here. Now, if you take a look at temperatures, we're going to see these ups and downs. We talked about roller coaster weather, battle zone weather, whatever you want to call it here. Out ahead of these fronts, it does warm up. We get warmer across the southern plain states Friday into Saturday with some 50s, maybe up close to 60 here. But on Saturday evening, another blast arrives here, and then you see temperatures go down for Sunday. Then we see temperatures try to go back up again early next week. You can see some 60s and even some 70s across Texas, and the really cold air, the coldest air, retreats back off to the north. But remember, another wave fronts about every 2 to 3 days here. Another wave comes down on Tuesday. Out ahead of the front, we may try to see some warmer conditions across Texas and southern parts of Oklahoma. But then here we go with the blast coming in behind that here late Tuesday and into Wednesday, and it's going to be pretty cold behind that one there. Now, the big question is, will there be any precipitation with this? You know, if you just look at the way the weather information looks, the pattern is not super favorable for a lot of precipitation across Texas and Oklahoma with this, but it's possible. We're going to have to wait and see what happens. This is a European computer model run, and it has rain and storms. Could be some severe weather over the Gulf Coast with this there on Saturday. But back behind that, again, we're cold but dry Sunday, and we see temperatures go up again Monday and maybe early Tuesday. But here comes this shot and this wave of cold air coming in on Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday night here. And there's some indications from at least the European computer model that this little wave of low pressure associated with this little cold blast is going to have some precipitation with it, which could result in widespread snow and perhaps sleet across Oklahoma, Kansas, over into Arkansas, Missouri, and maybe down into parts of North Texas. Now, this is not a done deal. This is just a scenario that is possible. The American run of the GFS does not indicate this. It did yesterday, but it took it out today. But that's not uncommon. The weather models do that. The GFS especially is notorious for doing that, showing stuff, taking it out, bringing it back, that kind of stuff. The European is usually a more accurate model when we look at long-term or medium-range forecasts here. So this scenario is possible. It's not out of the question. It's not an ideal setup, but it certainly isn't out of the question that there could be some stuff maybe early to mid parts of next week. Of course, we'll keep an eye on it. I think the bigger weather story remains the ups and downs in temperatures and the cold weather that will be blasting in about every 3 days. And when you have a weather pattern like this, it's just kind of buckle up and let's just see how it goes and expect lots of changes in the forecast, lots of changes in the weather patterns here, and day-to-day changes in the way you live your life according to the weather here. Once again, thank you for watching my stuff here and trusting me with the forecast here. And remember to like, follow, and subscribe to my social media pages.